Merry Christmas, and you know what it means when I say Merry Christmas? We're putting up a Christmas tree. Actually, I say it anytime because I just love it. But today we're putting up my dining room Christmas tree. Now, if you've been following me for a few years, you know my thing is I don't get brand new things every year. No, I love the things I have. I recycle or I reuse. Sometimes I just do the exact same thing. This tree has been the exact same for a few years. This year, I'm switching it up, adding in a collection I have, and kind of making sure it's cohesive with some other ornaments I've just always had that are modern. So what I'd like to do here in this case is lay everything out on a table if I can. And you can already probably see somewhat of the storyboard. This is a storyboard for a tree. These are all modern items on this side. So we have a modern oak leaf garland that's metal. We have these beautiful modern glass ornaments that have some gold leaf on them, and then even some more bronze gold type heavy ones. So these are ones I've had and used in different ways. And so what I'm doing is I'm using this as the base color. So this is my overall kind of pattern for the tree. And then the big showstopper for me is my antique Kugel collection. Now, Kugel is K-U-G-E-L. And what a Kugel is this antique heavy glass ornament that is usually German in origin, and it's very heavy. Like, you can just tell the difference. And a lot of new ornaments, the style, if you notice, are replicated off this original antique style. These I've slowly collected over the years, and you can see I use them in different ways. Sometimes, like last year, I just piled them in this market jar, and I just filled them to the brim. This year, I want to try to incorporate them into a tree. I've hardly ever had enough to really make that be a reality, but you can see they come in all different shapes. Now, some of them, it's easy to find fakes when you go to find Kugels because Kugels are really expensive. So I slowly have been doing this for like 10 years looking for these, and I look for deals, so it takes a while. I'm someone that likes to have a theme for a tree, so to make it cohesive, I'm using these gold tones. And it's gonna start with a garland. Now, what I will say with the garland is I'm using a heavier metal garland, and you can see that. So that means I'm gonna put this garland on first. Since I have delicate glass things, some of them antique, some of them not, I don't want to put this on later. And you can see I'm using kind of a narrow open tree so it can really hold some of these ornaments. I like to pack a tree. So that means I like to use a tree that can really take a lot of ornaments. So I'm gonna start by putting on my garland. And that's the way I can really manipulate how it goes in and how it goes around the tree. Now, you are also probably gonna notice I am using an antique urn to put my tree in. This is not something you can just go purchase. You can buy urns for trees, and that's pretty easy. But if you come in here, I want to show you. I had this cast iron piece made to go inside and fit in this antique urn. So this pipe fits directly in the urn, and then it holds my tree. Now, you could maybe do that with PVC piping. It kind of depends how heavy your tree is and how big of things you want to put on it. But for me, that worked really well to do. So what I'm first going to do is evenly space out my garland and make sure that it somewhat is manipulated around. So that's why, yes, I have a faux tree. That way I can manipulate it and hold these heavy ornaments. And then I can space this garland in to start filling in some of the big cracks in the tree, the big spaces, and then we'll start with ornaments. I put the garland on. You can see I evenly spaced it. And then I've been putting on those modern kind of ornaments that to me tie overall the base of the tree itself. So there's still lots of open spaces I'm gonna be able to fit a lot more on, but it's these ones with the gold leaves on them. It's these bronze ones that are heavier, and I'm putting a lot of them towards the inside of the tree. That way, to me, they catch the light a little bit better. They kind of bounce it around inside of the tree. And really, to me, since the main attraction of this is going to be those Kugels, that's the ones I really want to make sure then that you're going to notice. Now, what I do when I'm putting on ornaments, since I usually try to have 6 to 8 of one ornament for a themed tree. Now, if you're doing a family tree, obviously you just do whatever works for you, and that's great. But if I have 6 to 8 of one ornament, I stick with one type of ornament, I put it all over the tree, and then I move on. I find that helps me make sure they're spaced a little bit more evenly, and that way I can make sure on each one that it's hanging correctly, step back, look a little bit away from the tree, and see if any of them are too close together, because it will catch your eye if they are. That's just one thing that always happens. Now, these bigger gold ones, I'm actually gonna wait a little bit to put those on. Since they're a little bit more of an interest piece, unique, different, I don't want them to get hidden from the Kugels. I want them to be on the outside of the branch. So you always wanna think of working on the inside, what you wanna kind of put in the tree, and notice maybe the least, but it's just more of an accent piece, and then work outwards on what you really wanna have impactful. So now that's gonna be the Kugels. Now you can see there's lots of different shapes, sizes. Now, if you're into Kugels, I wanna show you maybe a difference here. Authentic antique Kugels should always have a cap that's old and flush with the ball itself. A more reproduction one is going to see how it has a neck on it at the top, underneath that cap. That neck usually insinuates that it's a newer Kugel. Not always brand new, but it's newer. And you can tell on the cap that this one has been more distressed to look old. So you just have to watch for that. So on these, I make sure I have really good hooks. So it can be metal ones, whatever. I am someone that scours and looks for antique hooks even, just the normal hooks. And let me show you here. You're gonna see why. The hooks of antique ones, if you look really closely, they're much more sturdy than new hooks. New hooks can be really flimsy and just kind of not be good, but if you find these antique hooks that have a beautiful turn at the bottom, these are so sturdy and they hold any ornament with no fear. So on these bigger Kugels, I'm gonna start with probably the biggest ones. And even though we're doing mostly kind of a gold pattern, some of these silver ones are still gonna look beautiful with those gold tones. And I think once we get them all in the tree, that's what's gonna be fun. So I'm actually gonna go by color. I'm gonna start with all my silver ones, because again, I think you'll understand by now, that's gonna help me see that I'm spacing the silver ornaments, since we don't have necessarily types, they're all Kugel, but we're gonna go by spacing for colors and making sure those colors are evenly spaced on the tree. And then we can move on to the next color and so forth. I'm someone that thinks of a tree as being a theme, and I don't wanna necessarily, it's easier to make themes with brand new trees and new ornaments. So sometimes I shy away from using my antique collections, but I think the important part here is I'm thinking of this just like I would my home when I'm mixing antique furniture. I'm gonna say a lot of the furniture in my house is new, modern, whatever it is. This table is new, but mixed within an antique hutch, it has a nice juxtaposition of some antique, some modern. I think it's the same thing for me with this tree is it works really well to have something that is old, which is the Kugels, but then mix them in and look how instantly they're taking on kind of a modern look. Yeah, and it is. It's maybe a little bit deeper thought than some people do for trees, but this is what I dream of, is how to put Christmas trees together. So I'm gonna put on the ornaments color by color and then see where I'm at. I just have put on pretty much all of the baubles, shall we call them? Okay, I personally really like it. Now, obviously a tree has to fit your personality. I'm not expecting this to be for everyone. What I love is it has these rich jewel tones that to me really work together. And I'm excited because for years I've been wondering how to make this cohesive. I'm someone that needs a tree to somewhat be a theme or cohesive. And for me, what really tied it in is this oak leaf garland, is some of the modern ornaments that are pushed inside to kind of fill in some of the spaces and gaps. If I had just so many Kugels, I stuffed it full and that was the only theme, it would totally work. But mixing with the color components, which undertones here are gold. And that's what I like. My undertones are gold with the garland, with the other ornaments, and it kind of just makes these shimmer on the way out. Now, some of them I don't have a lot of colors of, like the purple. I only have a few, so I'm trying to put them out front. To me, the thing you have the least amount of but you want to see, you put out on the tips of branches where you're going to notice it. These Midwest Kugel aren't quite as old as the German ones. So a couple others that I only have a few of are the grape clusters. These are, to me, they're more rare and they're hard to find. So I'm gonna put them, and they're pricey if you do find them, I should say that. So I'm gonna put them out towards the front so I can kind of just enjoy them and see them. I think I get this from my one grandma, my grandma Conrad. When she did a tree, it was purely for her enjoyment, and she just like loved it, and it had some of her favorite things on it. And to me, that's what a tree is. It's not for anyone else. It's for what you and your family want. So that's why I put some of these items that I don't have as many of and that I think are really fun out in front, so then I can kind of see them. And just kind of the grape clusters. Why are there grape clusters? I don't know, but they're fun. Now these to me again will tie that tree a little bit together. And these, what's fun about them is they fill in like long tall spaces, but they still recede. What I like about them is the oak leaf garland is like a nature type element, but then these bulbs are kind of the same thing. So I think there's like paper white type bulbs, tulip type bulbs. They all have, I got these a few years ago and I think they're so fun. So I will admit, if you're looking for what I have, I admit I don't always get new, so I can't tell you where these were from, but these were Cody Foster, I know, at the time when I got them, and I don't know if they're still being made. But what's fun about them is they just kind of are a unique element. And since I'm someone that loves to garden, you know my outdoor videos, you know I love to be outdoors in that space. I think there's just something kind of whimsical about putting a garden element kind of on a tree. And really, anything in our home should reflect things we love outside, right? So anytime I'm putting something that hangs, I wanna make sure it hangs properly. It isn't an awkward hanging item, or it's not, if this was just sitting like this awkwardly, you would notice that. So you wanna put it where it has space that it can actually hang, and it looks correct, make sure it's secure. Same with some of the high and like the very heavy Kugels. I wired some of them on with wire to make sure they won't move. You don't want things that you care about to just be kind of on there and something that could knock them off, or maybe if someone comes over, it could knock them off. That would never be fun. Don't worry, I'm not someone that is so much though that things do break. That's just what happens. So on the tips of branches, and again, I only have a few of these are modern, but they harken back to an antique ornament. And that's what I love about them. I wish I could find more of these, but I can't. They just look like they're just little blown glass candles. And what's fun is if you put them on the tips of the branches, it's kind of just the same era as these Kugels would be from. So the same era as when you'd put real candles on a tree, and that was the only way you could light a tree. That's what these are doing. Again, my grandma Conrad, she loved Christmas. She passed away in 2014, but she still remembered when she was young and her grandpa would stand by the tree and he would watch the candles. So as they dripped down all the way down to the base, if they would get too close to the tree, he would stand there and he would snuff them out quick so they didn't, start the tree on fire. They also wouldn't put their tree up until like the week of Christmas, if not just the day before Christmas. You wouldn't have a tree on for near as long because they couldn't last as long. And so I think, it's one of those things, it's kind of fun to remember how different Christmases have been, could be. So I think at Christmas, we bring back all of those thoughts, all those ideas. Now for the star on top, I have a very just traditional, it's actually just paper mache, but it's new and it just works well up on top. And I can just put it right on the tree and then make sure it's somewhat straight. Then you have to step back and you have to look at your whole tree. I feel like you guys are just in here and we're just decorating the tree together, which is kind of fun. You should tell me in the comments, do you guys decorate trees with people? Do you like to have family do it all together? When I was growing up, we did a mix of that. Sometimes we would decorate the tree together. I remember specifically one time, we did do 2 trees when I was little, and I got home from somewhere and mom had put up the second. And I was so mad because I had wanted to put it up with her. But now that I'm older, I kind of understand. I think she probably just wanted a time to be able to put one up by herself. So now I get it, Mom. But Mom and I do put up some together still at her house. So I hope what this does is inspire you to think outside the box. I think it's easy to get into ruts sometimes in our own life. I know I get into one where I put the exact same tree up every year. And while none of this is really brand new ornaments for me, it's recycling things I had and using them in different ways. Some of these ornaments I've never used together on a tree, but grouped together and using ones I had from previous years, using collections I have like the Kugels, it works together to create a cohesive tree, one that is able to tie antique and new and modern and kind of have a fresh take on it. And I think that's what's super important, is those fresh takes on things that we have and just a way to update them. So if it excites you too, if Christmas excites you, of course, share this video around because it helps me when you share these videos, but it helps everyone else hopefully be inspired and excited and just ready and joyful for the Christmas season. Because the thing is, I'm all about, let's not be stressed about Christmas. Let's choose what gives us joy. If putting up a tree gives you joy, put it up. If putting up a tree doesn't give you joy and you're not looking forward to it, maybe don't do it this year. Find what works for you, enjoy it. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for tips, for tricks, for recipes for the season. They're all on there. Until next time, find something shiny and bright. Might make you feel cozy.